Let me tell you about the time the HOA president stole my ranch, called the cops on me in my own driveway, and ended up losing everything, including her own freedom, because of the kind of karma you just can't make up. Yeah, you heard me. I got arrested for trespassing on property I inherited while Beverly Caldwell, the Queen Bee HOA president, sold my land out from under me and tried to erase me like I was a bad line on her precious clipboard. Let's back up a second, because if you think you've heard HOA horror stories, trust me, you ain't seen anything yet. So there I was, coming home after a week out of town, and some total strangers, the Morrison family, were moving into my house, like actually carrying their stuff up my front steps, their U-Haul wide open, kids unloading boxes labeled kitchen dishes, and who's standing there with a Cheshire cat grin, clipboard in hand? Beverly Caldwell. She was pointing at me already on her phone. Arrest him. He's trespassing. Yeah, that happened, except it was my damn house. But let me rewind just a bit more, because Pine Valley used to be the kind of place where you'd wave at your neighbors, toss breadcrumbs to the birds, maybe enjoy a beer on the porch. Not anymore. Not since Beverly got elected HOA president. She took our peaceful little corner of Texas and turned it into something out of a police state. $200 HOA fees jumped to $850 a year. The rule book ballooned from a dozen guidelines to nearly 50. Families moved out just to get away from her inspections. The Hendersons, the Smiths, the Collinses, good people all steamrolled by Beverly and her parade of fines, threats, and public shaming. I'd inherited my uncle's 8-acre spread solar panels, a chicken coop, and a shop where I restored old bikes. My uncle, God rest him, always told me, "Son, just keep your paperwork tight. These HOAs can be trouble." Turns out even paperwork doesn't stand a chance against someone like Beverly. One afternoon, she's citing Mrs. Whitman across the street, an elderly widow, for bird feeders of all things. The poor woman's hands were shaking, trying to defend the wooden feeders she hung after her husband passed. Beverly didn't care. She'd just scrawl another violation and look for her next target. And on this day, I guess my place looked like a gold mine of infractions. She calls me over. "Time for another property inspection, Mr. Sullivan." She's all fake sweet, waving her clipboard, daring me to push back. 15 years as a paramedic taught me to keep calm, document everything. "Beverly, if you have a problem, follow proper procedure," I tell her. She didn't like that one bit. That evening, I get my first official violation, $500 in fines for my solar panels, my chickens, and my workshop. None of it was actually against the rules, but Beverly knew most folks would just pay up rather than fight her in court. She figured I'd do the same. What she didn't know is that documentation and procedure are my bread and butter. She tries to hit me with a surprise inspection, but I know the bylaws. She needs 48 hours written notice. She turns red, grumbles, and schedules a proper inspection for Thursday. I'm ready. I've got Mrs. Whitman as my witness, phone recording every word. Beverly and her bored flunkies scour my place but can't find a single real violation. She's furious. No one challenges me and wins, she snaps. "I'll find a way to remove you permanently." That threat caught on camera, too. I thought that was the end of it, but Beverly was just getting started. While my uncle was sick, he missed a couple HOA payments. I thought the estate lawyer handled everything, but Beverly saw her chance. She cooked up a delinquent account using some deep-cut provision in the HOA agreement, something about asset recovery for chronic non-compliance. Then she started stacking fake violations to make it look like I was a repeat offender. I didn't even see it coming. A couple weeks later, I get a notice, $8, $400 in fees, an interest payment already past due. Small print warning of asset recovery. I call the HOA voicemail. Beverly's out on urgent business. I figure I'll sort it out after my trip to Colorado to see my sister. Bad move. When I get home, Beverly has sold my ranch at a foreclosure auction to the Morrisons, who turns out are connected to her lawyer's family. She's standing in my driveway waving papers at the cops, telling them I'm agitated and a threat. The deputy Rodriguez tries to stay neutral, but Beverly has a thick folder of paperwork, certified mail receipts, signatures, suspiciously tidy legal notices, foreclosure records. Everything looks official. The law's on her side, at least on paper. Rodriguez tells me if I want to challenge it, take her to civil court. Right now, you're trespassing. That word hits me like a punch. I grab what I can and spend the night in a cheap motel that stinks of disinfectant and cigarettes, spreading Beverly's evidence on the table. Every signature is just a bit too perfect. The timeline doesn't add up. My uncle was sharp as a tack. He never would have let this happen. And my estate lawyer, either he dropped the ball or Beverly kept him in the dark. The next morning, I dig into county records. Beverly's run this play before 3 other families, same pattern, fake violations, fines, ignored appeals, then foreclosure. She's got it down to a science. But as I dig deeper, I stumble on something Beverly didn't want anyone to find: her own property, a former gas station site flagged for environmental contamination. She owed over $3,000 in unpaid cleanup fees. While she's foreclosing on families over HOA dues, she's dodging her own government bills. That's when Mrs. Whitman, sweet quiet, Mrs. Whitman shows up at the law library with a manila envelope. Her late husband was a county clerk, and he kept records. She tells me Beverly's been hiding the extent of her contamination, fighting off county officials, falsifying environmental tests, dumping chemicals at night. She hands me photos, letters, the kind of stuff that could trigger a full-blown environmental crime investigation. With Mrs. Whitman's help, I piece together Beverly's scheme. She's been using HOA foreclosures to scrape up cash to cover her environmental fines, but she can't keep up. Every family she drives out funds her fight to avoid bankruptcy. And her cover-up, it's criminal, literally. I file a formal complaint with the county environmental office, dropping the evidence anonymously. Not even a day later, I get an anonymous text: "Stop digging or losing your house will be the least of your problems." Classic Beverly. When legal games don't work, she turns to threats. But the dominoes are already falling. EPA agents show up in hazmat suits, neighbors gather to watch, and Beverly is scrambling, making frantic calls. Soil tests reveal benzene levels 30 times the legal limit, petroleum plumes under 8 houses, chemical dumping so bad the county condemns her property and slaps her with federal criminal charges. And here's the twist, my favorite part. With her property condemned and up for auction, I scrape together every dollar I have, sell my truck, my bikes, even take a loan from Mrs. Whitman, and outbid everyone for Beverly's lot. $5, $200 gets me 3 acres, and more importantly, the private road access that all of Pine Valley relies on. Beverly comes home from her new temp job to find a locked steel gate blocking her way, my gate with a big sign: "Private property, authorized access only." She slams into it with her car, furious, helpless. She calls the cops, but Officer Martinez, who used to enforce Beverly's rules, just shrugs. "He owns the road, ma'am." The reversal is delicious. Now Beverly is begging me for access, slipping notes under my windshield, asking for terms. I make her jump through every bureaucratic hoop she ever forced on us. Written requests, 24 hours, notice my approval. Mrs. Whitman, now our unofficial town hero, acts as the go-between, grinning every time she hands over Beverly's latest plea. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors are tearing apart Beverly's life. Her real estate license, revoked her assets, frozen her co-conspirators, outed her former friends and board members, now calling for reform. The HOA is overhauled, votes for every decision, full financial transparency, independent review for all violations. And then the final Justice Agent Thompson from the EPA calls. Tests reveal that Beverly's failure to disclose environmental hazards voids the foreclosure on my ranch. Within a week, I'm signing papers to get my land back, the Morrison family relocated with compensation, and Beverly's facing prison time. Pine Valley throws a community party, not just for my homecoming, but to mark the end of Beverly's reign. Standing on my porch watching the sun go down over my uncle's land, I realize something: justice is slow, but when it hits, it's like a sledgehammer. Beverly's downfall wasn't just about karma for me. It was about the whole community reclaiming their dignity, their rights, their peace. She weaponized rules and bureaucracy to hurt people, but in the end, it was the law and a little neighborly courage that took her down. So here's what I learned. Don't let fear or red tape bully you out of what's yours. Document everything. Help your neighbors, and never, ever underestimate the power of community when it finally wakes up. Now let me ask you, where do you draw the line between enforcing rules and outright abuse of power? When does justice become revenge? And does it even matter when the person who tried to ruin so many lives finally gets what's coming to them? Drop your thoughts below. Share your own crazy HOA story, and let's see if anyone can top this saga of neighborly karma. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and remember, knowledge of the law is your best armor against those who think they're above it. See you next time. Because in this neighborhood, there's always another twist waiting around the corner.